there are certain things that they've done or they're not doing that I think should be called out, and I believe I've called them out in the past. But over the last few weeks, they've done a bunch of different things, and a lot of these things were already in the works for quite a while now. As I said, these things can be in the works for a while, not ready to be announced yet, but then they get leaked out, and everyone starts a fuss about it, and then the Ethereum Foundation does the thing, and then everyone's like, oh, look, the Ethereum Foundation only did this because Crypto Twitter said that they should do it, and that becomes like a whole mess from there. But anyway, the list of things includes things like reviving the Ethereum account on Twitter. I've said it before, say it again. It's nowhere near good enough yet. Like, it's definitely not, but I believe it will get better over time. I have put my name forward as someone that could potentially be part of the team that runs the account, or just be someone who like reviews tweets and gives feedback to tweets and says, hey, I think this tweet would be better than that one, or I think this should be phrased this way. And I've offered it up for free. I don't want to make money from that. I don't really care to. I know the Twitter game. I know how to tweet. I'm pretty good at it, and I don't need to be paid to do this. I actually just want to see the Ethereum account used more and used properly because I love Ethereum and I just want to see it win. So yeah, I put my name forward for that. We'll see what happens there, but regardless of my involvement or not, I do believe that account's going to get better over time. The Ethereum Foundation also moved 50,000 ETH into a new wallet to do stuff with DeFi, and that's what Xiaowei Wang here actually announced on Twitter, and she's part of the leadership team now. She announced this, I think, a couple of weeks ago or something, that she's now part of the leadership team. Now, I do want to say that 50,000 ETH is not a small amount for the Ethereum Foundation. They have, I think, like 310,000 ETH total. So 50,000 ETH of 310,000, that's a huge percentage of their treasury that they just moved into a new address where they're going to be doing things within DeFi. It's probably just on mainnet for now, on layer 1. Obviously, they can afford the gas fees, right? So on there. But they started off by doing a test transaction with Aave, and they're going to be using Gnosis Safe, which they said here is proven safe and has a great user experience, and they'll transfer more of their funds there over time. So it's really great to see that. It's really great to see that they're putting those funds to use on-chain, you know, dog fooding their own kind of product here. So great to see that there. Then they've also been thinking about ways to solo stake their ETH. You know, Vitalik tweeted out saying that he wants to figure out a way that the Ethereum Foundation can stake their ETH, probably not with any of the existing providers, probably just going to solo stake it, which in my opinion is probably the best way to do it. They already have an internal ops team that runs nodes, so they can just do this. Like, I don't think it's that much of a lift for them to do this, so I'm glad to see them thinking about this. They made leadership changes that should bring refreshed perspectives. Xiaowei Wang was one of them. There was a couple of others, I believe, that were put on the leadership team here, and you can see that Xiaowei is already participating in this, already bringing a refreshed perspective here and doing different things with the DeFi wallet here. So there's that going on. The EF people have generally become more vocal on Twitter, which is great. Like, we want to kill this narrative that the Ethereum Foundation people just live in an ivory tower. I don't think they do. I think what happens is that they want to focus on their work, right? And obviously they're like, well, I can focus on my work. The community will spotlight my work for me. I don't have to be very active on Twitter. Maybe that's their thought process. I don't know if it is or isn't, but seems kind of logical to me. But the thing is that they still need to be active themselves, because it's better at coming from them directly and people seeing that than it coming from like me or Bankless or the Block, for example, or Blockworks or whoever it is. It's better at it comes from, I think, them directly, and better for them to be active in the, I guess, like town square that is Twitter, than letting the community do everything. So I'm glad to see that. And the lines of communication between EF teams and external Ethereum teams has been improving. Rudolph, who I've talked about before, he's working on a bunch of different stuff within the Ethereum ecosystem, works at the EF, is leading a new team that is going to be interfacing between the L2 teams and the Ethereum Foundation, so that they can work more closely on informing priorities around Ethereum L1 roadmap items, for example, and things like interoperability, which I covered the other day, the interoperability call that they're trying to do. That they started doing, and they're trying to kind of get motion on. So there is a lot of efforts happening there, which is really great to see. And finally, Vitalik changed his profile picture to a milady. The milady community is very, I guess, like in the trenches, you can say. They are everywhere on Twitter. A lot of people have miladies. I don't know much about it outside of that, but hey, it's a big community there, and it's a big community that I think feels seen by Vitalik, which is only a positive. And it, I guess, like, speaks to the fact that the Ethereum Foundation has heard, or people within the Ethereum Foundation have heard, that they want that people want them to be, I guess, like more active on chain and do more stuff in the trenches, which is great to see. And then I ended this tweet by saying there's going to be more positive changes to come. I'm hopeful one of those includes Danny Ryan being involved somehow, but we shouldn't lose our heads here. Ethereum is much bigger than the EF, and it always has been, and we should work to uplift non-EF entities while also pushing for healthy changes at the EF when needed. We are all Ethereum, and that's the point I really wanted to end this little rant on. We're all Ethereum, guys. I said this the other day. You can do whatever you want within Ethereum. No one is stopping you. Ethereum is a permissionless and decentralized ecosystem. The Ethereum Foundation is one player among many. Yes, you're an important player, but you can become an important player too. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. Everyone started from basically nothing. You know, for example, Uniswap, pretty much like the most used app on Ethereum, whether it be at L1 and at the L2s, but especially at L1, that started from nothing, right? And it grew from nothing. It started all the way back in, I believe, the first iterations were in 2018, and then it grew into what it is today. And there's so many examples of this. So don't let the fact that you may be starting from nothing dissuade you. Anyone can get involved here. And I know of multiple efforts across multiple different verticals within the Ethereum ecosystem of new things coming. Like there's just so much happening. It's crazy. I mentioned one the other day where I believe it might be launching today. I think revealing itself today, so I'll cover it on the next refuel. But there's other initiatives like the ETH is Money initiative. I believe that they're kind of expanding that initiative now, and I'm excited to share more about that when the time is right. But yeah, I mean, there's so much stuff happening here. So I just wanted to highlight that there. One last thing I'll say about all of this is that I know Vitalik recently tweeted, I think it was maybe yesterday that he tweeted out saying that the Ethereum Foundation basically, the decisions at the Ethereum Foundation, sorry, I should say, are ultimately up to him. So any of the leadership changes, any of the kind of internal stuff, if he wanted to fire someone, he could, or let someone go, he could, or hire someone, he could, ultimately is up to him, because the Ethereum Foundation is, that's the way it's structured right now. I think they want to change that structure, but I don't know why people were surprised by this. Like, I knew that this was the case. Even though there is a leadership team, I knew that the ultimate power basically resided with Vitalik. That doesn't mean that Vitalik has power of Ethereum, the network, or the Ethereum ecosystem, but within the confines of the Ethereum Foundation, in terms of their internal structure and their internal practices around the Ethereum Foundation, the foundation itself, not the Ethereum development side of things, but the foundation itself, he definitely has the ultimate kind of power there. But as I said, he wants to change that. I think there is things in the works to change that, and that's probably why there hasn't been anything about what's Danny Ryan's involvement going to be and stuff like that. There's just been a lot of back and forth here, so on and so forth. So we're going to have to see how that shakes out there, but I definitely wanted to just comment on that there. All right, speaking of companies being involved with Ethereum more broadly and Ethereum being greater than the Ethereum Foundation, Joseph Lubin actually replied to that tweet that I was just talking about, where he basically said that the same thing I was just saying, where Ethereum is so much more than the EF. He says there are multiple threads in process at the EF, but also the Ethereum Enterprise Alliance and consensus that will reformat how Ethereum goes to market in the near term. And then Joe Lubin continues and says, and based on what I am seeing, there will be so many high-value initiatives that become public soonish that your heads will spin. Best to keep them on your shoulders and not to lose them before a surge begins. So I do want to address something here about consensus, actually. So you guys know, and I think I talked about this maybe the other day, but you guys know that for a while there, Ethereum came under a lot of attack from the US government under Democratic leadership, from the SEC and others, about ETH being potentially a security, Ethereum developers being, Ethereum core developers being essentially implicated in selling unregistered securities or developing an unregistered security, whatever it was, right? Some crap. We all know it was crap. We all know now it's different, but back then it wasn't. And for Consensus in particular, they were at the heart of it because they're a US-based company that literally for a long time, and they stopped, I think, over the last couple of years, but for a long time, were Ethereum's kind of marketing and BD arm. And they did a lot of good stuff in the background. 100% they did a lot of good stuff in the background, but also in the foreground. And they've been doing a lot of good stuff for years here. But the problem is that they had to kind of pull back on that given the regulatory regime, and they weren't the only ones that had to do this. But because Ethereum is the biggest ecosystem, it's the most visible one, Consensus had to do this. The Ethereum Foundation even had to do this to an extent, even though they're not US based. They kind of had to do this, and things were just looking dire for a while there. But now that the entire regulatory regime in the US is completely flipped on its head, right? It's a complete 180 here, where things are very, very positive. I saw today that there is a new crypto kind of regulatory / enforcement arm that is being headed up by Hester Pierce today at the SEC, which is aiming to do more positive stuff on the regulatory side for crypto. Given that all of these positive things are happening, Consensus, Joe Lubin, a lot of people that are involved in the Ethereum ecosystem in the US are now waking up again. They're coming back to life because they don't have the fear of going to jail or getting massively fined or their companies being destroyed by a rogue administration who was literally trying to create law through regulation. And I'm really glad to see that. I'm really happy to see that, because this is what Ethereum needs at this point in its life. As I've said in the past, Ethereum has serious and real competition now, competition that's going for its throat, and that doesn't care about, or hasn't historically cared about, these regulatory stuff, either because they're not based in the US at all, or that they are and they actually knew that they were shielded by Ethereum, because Ethereum acted as a shield for a lot of ecosystems because of the fact that it was the biggest and it was the one and the most visible and the one you would go after, and the projects on Ethereum were the ones you would go after, like Uniswap. So I think that you're going to be seeing a lot more coming out of Consensus in particular. Joe Lubin has just really started tweeting again, which is inspiring because he's always great. He's got a different view on things, and he's got I guess like an into the TradFi kind of ecosystem there, and in terms of like doing BD in that ecosystem for Ethereum, he's doing a lot of great work there, of course. So as he said in his tweet, we're going to be seeing more of this stuff come to, be announced and come to fruition probably this year. Honestly, like most of it will probably be done this year, given that things have changed so drastically. I put out a tweet the other day where I said, just, I guess, a few months ago, maybe even a couple months ago, crypto teams were falling over themselves to not get marked as a US crypto company, and they weren't even airdropping tokens to US citizens or US persons. Now, they're all trying to basically brand themselves as a US crypto company. That's how much it's changed, guys. That's how much the regulatory regime has changed, and don't underestimate how much positives can come out of that over the longer term. It's going to take some time. This is something that I think the online world, especially Twitter, doesn't seem to understand, or seems to kind of get caught up in. Things take time. Yes, the 24 news cycle makes it seem like things are going to happen, right here, right now, but things just take time. We live in the real world, as humans, we have to deal with real world processes. There's always types of bureaucracy and politics behind the scenes. And of course, the TradFi world moves very slow as well. So any major stuff happening there is just going to move slower than anyone would like, especially because a lot of people in crypto, if they're crypto natives, I think at this point they've had their dopamine receptors fried, where they've just spent so much time online, so much time in the trenches, so much time kind of doing meme coin stuff and other stuff, that they may have kind of like ruined their brains a bit, where they're looking for that dopamine hit, that short-term dopamine hit that's just not coming from certain areas, and they get frustrated. They're like, why isn't EF doing this stuff right now? Like, why is it taking the EF a few weeks or a few months to change their leadership structure? Why isn't it happening in 24 hours? That's not how it works, guys. And I think it's a bit of that going on as well. But anyway, enough about that stuff there. Just wanted to cover all of that. I know I spent a lot of this episode covering that stuff, but I do think it's important, and I think it's an important piece of Ethereum generally here. Alright, so moving on to some tech-related stuff. So Justin Drake dropped a new ETH research post all about native rollups. So you can go check this out for yourself. I'll link it in the